Christmas Eve, Sunday, December 24th, 2017. I head down the steps, calling out to my wife, mother, and son. Receiving no answer and realizing I'm alone in the old farmhouse, I feel some relief at last. So many things have happened over the last few days, and I haven't really had the time to take stock of everything. I soak in the silence as I walk around the ground floor, looking at the decorations in each room. There's a nativity scene on the mantelpiece. It features ceramic figures, painted mainly by my mother, but each of her 3 children was assigned a different wise man. Despite our obvious lack of skills, they remained. And the Christmas tree has been trimmed with the same ornament since I was a child, like a time capsule opened once a year and set on display. In the kitchen, I discover a plate of food and a handwritten note. Picking at the lukewarm bacon and toast, I read my mother's neat cursive. "Paul, thought you could use some extra sleep. We're off getting things ready for tonight. So you've got the day to yourself. See you at the ceremony. You'll need to pick up your tux and arrive at the church a little early. Love, Mom. P.S. We have the car so you can take the pickup if you can get it running. Ha ha ha." Filling my mouth with everything left on the plate, I grabbed the key from its hook. After the conversation we had last night, I hadn't imagined I'd actually be allowed to do this. The reality of it makes me sad and hopeful. Pulling on my boots, I walk across the yard and muse about how my mother must think I'm a miracle worker. I step into the barn and wonder to myself when the last time my grandfather's old truck was even started. The green tarp still covers a bed full of furniture and boxes, confirming my hunch that it was probably 2 years ago. That was when we received word Chris's storage unit was about to be put up for auction. My mother decided to pay off the debt and finally bring his belongings home. The 62-year-old truck has seen better days. The powder blue exterior is now a patchy coat of rusty colors. The only part of the body with a consistent shade is the passenger door, which was taken from a taxicab and grafted on in a Frankenstein monster attempt to give the vehicle a few more months of drivability. And that was way back in the mid-'80s. Still, the windows aren't broken, and the tires look okay. There's a slim chance the engine might turn over with a little bit of work. I guess my mother thinks trying to bring this truck back to life might be therapeutic for me. It's freezing out here, and I'm losing feeling in my hands, but I've got some time, and I could use the distraction. Why not give it a shot? Besides, if I remember correctly, there's beer among Chris's personal effects, and the longer I spend tinkering, the more time I have to drink. I start off by giving the truck a total transfusion of fluids and a basic tune-up. It takes some effort, and by the time I'm ready to crank things up, I've got a decent buzz going. I start to wonder if I should stop drinking or stop working on the truck. After all, the way I'm pacing things, if I do get the truck started, I'll be well past the legal limit to drive it. Not wanting to cease either endeavor, I rationalize that I can simply call Amaya and get her to pick me up. My attention becomes increasingly divided between truck, beer, and phone. Both the vehicle and I get more lubricated, and the messages I send Gail go from cordial and friendly to flirtatious and suggestive. After a while, a mainly speculative understanding it might be fun to meet up for coffee morphs into tangible plans for a rendezvous. Just in case I'm not being specific enough, I start to text hints at the kind of activities I envision for the two of us, and I begin to employ more romantic language, just so my expectations have clarity. This is a new low for me. Even with all our problems, I've never seriously considered cheating on Amaya. I think about that as I send each message. I lose even more of my self-respect every time I hit send. I hate myself for doing it, but I don't stop. Each time I pass by, I reach under the tarp and pluck an item from the bed of the truck. Each of Chris's earthly possessions reminds me of the brother I lost. It also reminds me of the parts of myself that have vanished due to my failures. I failed to protect him, and now I'm failing my family with my drinking, with my inability to provide for them or even put presents under the tree. and with my weakness. When I finally turn the key and hear the 55 F-100's V8 engine start, it feels like my own roar, and I realize there's no way I'm not taking this bad boy for a spin. I can only guess what the woman at the tuxedo place must be thinking when I come in and ask for my rental with fermented barley and hops on my breath. I don't stick around to find out. I'm only there long enough to get changed and knock over a display of cummerbunds, and then I'm back on the road. I've already begun to lose track of time when I decide to take a personal tour of my old haunts. When it's time for me to be at the church, I'm in the next county looking at what used to be fire music. It's a Starbucks now. I don't walk Jen down the aisle. I miss the whole ceremony. I'm not there for the pictures. When I get to the church, the doors are locked. I call my mother and make her give me directions to the reception hall. When I finally arrive, Tom is reading the best man's toast, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the best excuse for another drink I've had in years. It's darkly satisfying to be this far gone. I'm no stranger to drink, but the last time I got this blackout, I was still in the service, and death felt inevitable. There's something liberating about slipping into that familiar sensation. There are traces of liberation tonight. Inevitability, too. The more liquid courage I consume, the more committed I am to the idea this will be my last night on Earth. The only question remaining is how will I do it? Will it be by pill or rope, exhaust or bullet? I'll get my moment in the sun with Gale, and then I'll settle in beside that old truck and let the world fade to black the way it should have long ago. Amaya is doing everything she can to keep Noah from seeing me like this, but that just seems wrong. I might not be perfect, but every boy needs a chance to say goodbye to their father. Every child needs some good memories of their dad. I make my way across the hall to tell her, loudly if I need to, but I change my mind when I realize she's standing beside my sister. I'm sorry I didn't get to play daddy tonight, I say, tugging on Jen's arm and pulling her from the dance floor. She looks at me with heartbreak in her eyes and quickly turns away. Please, Paul, she says. They've already had to redo my makeup twice. Realizing how much I've hurt her, I do my best to hide the fact that I've been drinking. I meant no offense, okay? I didn't want to be that guy, you know? I just wanted to say something so you understand where I'm coming from. I know where you're coming from. Just, please, I can't. She pulls away from me, clicking on her heels until her face is buried in Tom's jacket. Amaya picks up Noah. Come on, let's go see what Grandma's up to. She disappears with my son, and it makes me feel like things are finally over between us. That's okay. It merely absolves me of any guilt I might be feeling about what I plan on doing. But I don't want this to be my goodbye, so I decide to undo as much damage as I can. Turning my charm up a notch, I try to get things going on the dance floor. Things are starting to feel a little hazy. I'm dancing 1 minute, having the time of my life, and then suddenly I'm in the middle of a heated argument with my mother. You should be ashamed of yourself, Paul. Don't you have any common sense at all? She's pushing me toward the door. The blood rushes to my head. My fight or flight receptors are activated. I shake her away. Get off me, woman! How could you do this to your sister? My mother asks, not realizing her own culpability. If it hadn't been for her, I would never be in the position to have to walk my sister down the aisle. That was her fault, not mine. You know, I say. What did she ever do to deserve this from you? I'm sorry I'm not your perfect little angel, Mom. I'm a bad brother. I can't keep a job. I like to have a drink from time to time. I'm struggling to remember how the fight even got started. My mother opens the door. Chilly air rushes in from outside. Get out of here. Go sleep it off somewhere. We can talk when you're sober enough to understand what you've done. Jen and Tom approach, and I turn to appeal to them. You don't want me to leave, do you? I ask it in such a way as to make their answer obvious. Of course they'd rather I stay. I'm the life of the party. They respond by looking at each other and then crossing their arms, and I take it as a sign of solidarity to my cause. See, Mom, it's only you that wants to kick me out into the snow. Shaking with fury, Jen gestures outside. No, Paul, you need to go. I'm stunned. Fine, I say. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. I storm out into the darkness. The air is frigid and filled with swirling flakes. Snowing on Christmas Eve, and all the magic is lost on me. I'm trudging through the parking lot on freezing legs, griping at my shadow. I begin to wonder if this is rock bottom, or if I still have further to fall. I confess my sins as I climb into the truck, praying God will somehow find a way to forgive me. Hell can't be much worse than this world anyway. I'm having trouble. My blackout moments are multiplying. I'm at a restaurant eating something laying under a lake of gravy. I'm at a parking lot where I drop my phone and crack the screen. I'm banging on the front door of my father's house, ready to confront the old bastard. Finally, I wake up a few minutes before midnight in my grandfather's pickup. The heat is on, and the cab is bumping along, clearly moving. Who's driving? Did I fall asleep at the wheel? I lift my head off the cold glass of the window, searching for the steering wheel. Why does the driver have my father's face? He sees me stirring and offers a stern shake of his head. Go back to sleep, Polly. All I can see of the road is captured by the headlights before it disappears under the hood. Snowflakes streak toward us as though we're traveling at light speed in the lonely outstretches of space. Snow melts as it lands on the windshield, brushed aside by the wipers. It's a surreal moment, and I don't want to think about it. I just want to close my eyes and slip away. I reach out and turn up the radio, my eyes following my hand, and when my attention returns to the road, I am shocked awake. A white fawn has ventured from the trees and pauses in the road, caught in our path. I wonder at its improbability. In the dead of winter, there aren't deer that young, and the unbroken silvery coat seems impossible. There's no time to fit in this thought, and there's no opportunity for either of us to react. The bumper of the truck tears into the animal. As my father jerks the wheel, the deer is thrown and passes by my window. Everything slows as I watch her spin and fly past, hindquarters first. Our eyes seem to lock for an instant. There's no telling what kind of life led this little deer into our path, but our eyes carry no malice. They are open and innocent just before they roll white and glass over. And then things speed back to normal, and she's landed with a wet thud, rolling on the road behind us. The view in front is obstructed by a spray of blood. The wipers smear it thinly across our line of sight, and death approaches through a rosy tint. The truck fishtails on the ice, and my father loses control. I grasp for the steering wheel, but the force of its wild rotation batters my hand. We lurch and slide sideways. The driver's side wheels lift off the ground, and I'm convinced we're going to roll. Instead, we sideswipe the guardrail of a bridge. The force of the impact pushes both of our bodies against the passenger side, and the replacement door gives way. The two of us spill out, tumbling 10 feet to the ice below. As we're pulled down into the dark, freezing water, one last thought enters my mind. So this is how my story ends.